Caregiving can sometimes feel like an impossible struggle. Caregivers may be torn between taking care of loved ones and trying to maintain balance in life. The good news is that it doesn't have to be that way. The Caring Generation with host Pamela D Wilson is here to focus on the conversation of caring. You're not alone. In fact, you're in exactly the right place to share stories and learn tips and resources to help you and your loved ones. So now, please welcome the host of The Caring Generation, Pamela D Wilson.
This is Pamela D. Wilson, caregiving expert, speaker, consultant, and guardian of the Caring Generation. The Caring Generation focuses on the conversation of caring, giving us permission to talk about aging, the challenges of caregiving, and everything in between. It's no surprise that needing care or becoming a caregiver changes everything. The Caring Generation is here to guide you along the journey, to let you know that you're not alone. You are in exactly the right place to share stories and learn about caregiving programs and resources to help you and your loved ones plan for what's ahead. Invite your parents, spouses, family, friends, colleagues, and coworkers to listen to the show. If you have a question or an idea for a future program, share your idea with me by commenting on social media posts on my Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and LinkedIn channels. You can also go to my website and click on the Contact Me button and complete my caregiver survey. This week, we're answering the question, how to stop being influenced by others. Human beings are easily susceptible to the influence of other people and the media. What does influence mean? Influence means being affected by another person, information, an event, or a situation such that you do something differently. You might do something out of character. And let's look at a common situation that most of us have experienced. Let's say that you resign from a job to accept another position, or maybe you just take time off work. What influenced your resignation? What factors resulted in you making that decision to leave your job? There could be a lot of them. You might resign because of health problems, because your parents or a spouse are in poor health and you want to take care of them. Or maybe you want to have children. Or maybe you just hate your job. On the other hand, if you resign and accept a new position, what was the motivation? Is it because you wanted a promotion and you didn't get it? Or maybe you didn't feel like you fit in with the company culture or the people that you worked with. You didn't have anything in common with them. These things happen. Or the perfect reason for changing jobs is that you received an offer you couldn't refuse. A higher wage or a salary, maybe a promotion, maybe a move. So there are so many things that influence our behaviors and our choices. But the most likely influencers are the people that we spend the most time with. If you are already a family caregiver, the person who may have the most influence over you may be an elderly parent or your spouse. If you work full-time or you go to school full-time, you may spend a lot of time with your coworkers or your friends. And so they are the ones who have a significant influence on you, just as you might have on them. The social groups where we spend our time and the family members that we spend time with can have a significant influence on the decisions we make. Let me give two more examples. Let's say that you care for an elderly parent who is extremely negative and complains all the time. You notice that your habits and behaviors are becoming more like mom or dad, and you don't like the changes that you're seeing in yourself. You are not the person you used to be. You feel more depressed and negative. In the past, you were always positive. You were hopeful. You believed that good things would happen. Now, all you do is complain, and you're feeling pretty hopeless. In this case, it's very possible that the behaviors of the person you care for have influenced you. They've affected your mental state and your daily actions. Your new behaviors may be driving other family members and friends away. During this program, we're going to talk about the various ways, like these, in which we are influenced by people and situations, especially when we become family caregivers. We'll also talk about how to recognize influence and the actions you can take to make sure that the decisions you make are your choices and that you understand and accept the consequences. It's easy for other people to exert influence or to make recommendations that have absolutely no effect on their lives. You're the one that has to live with it. The thing is, you know yourself better than anyone else. So avoid being easily swayed to do something that is really out of character for you, something you would never do. I think that we've all taken a recommendation or two from others that didn't work out the way that we expected, and then possibly we had a regret or two. So, question is, what makes some people more easily influenced by others? If you are a caregiver, do you lack self-confidence? Do you lack experience? The role of a caregiver exposes people to a lot of stress and unfamiliar experiences. You're now attending doctor appointments with mom or dad. Maybe you've been to the hospital emergency room more than once. Calling health insurance companies to ask about benefits is something that you do on a regular basis, and you dread it. You might pick up medications from the pharmacy every 3 or 4 weeks. But because you've never performed these activities before, or at least not very often, you rely on the people helping you to do the right thing in their interactions with you. You trust them. Let's look at what influence looks like in the workplace. Maybe you are influenced, inspired, or maybe even demotivated by the behaviors of coworkers or supervisors. On the other hand, though, if you like your supervisor, you may be so motivated to model his or her behaviors, and you do really good at your job. On the other hand, if you wanted a promotion and you didn't receive it, regardless of why, you may be the person who becomes that rotten apple that tries to divide everybody on your work team. We've all been in situations where there is that potential, that influence, to be dragged into the drama of another person that really has nothing to do with us. In these situations, avoiding drama and crazy are the best course of action. Don't allow yourself to be influenced or manipulated by another person into their battle that they leave you to fight after they, poof, disappear. Other unintentional impacts of influence may be then that you become the person who can't get along with anybody. You burn bridges. You can't turn back the clock on reestablishing those trusting relationships. It's true that our actions show other people how to treat us, and they also offer insights to other people about how we will treat them when situations turn crazy. Older adults are highly influenced by the healthcare system. Much like the experience for the caregiver, experiencing health problems and being sick may be a first-time event for a spouse or an aging parent, especially if this is an issue that happened out of the blue. It was totally unexpected. Maybe it was an accident or a heart attack that even couldn't be predicted in any sense of the truth. So the lives of the caregiver and the person who needs care then is affected by doctors and other providers who might be really empathetic and helpful and provide thorough information, or maybe the opposite. You may experienced doctors and providers who really don't care because they are burned out from being a professional caregiver. So the first consideration for how to stop being easily influenced by others is to realize that you are influenced, probably hundreds of times a day, depending on what you're doing. Some of these influences come from your mind. Our brains have a fight or flight mechanism that is affected by our fears that are imagined or real. Our mind reacts to mental and physical stress, and there's a lot of that when you are a caregiver. You might notice that your heart skips a beat, or it begins to race, or your skin flushes cold or hot. Maybe your thoughts and emotions go on high alert. And if your emotions sway to the negative, realize that you can create stress-induced inflammation in the body that results in allergies, stomach pain, high blood pressure. You don't feel good. You're diagnosed with chronic illnesses. Stress also relates to the experience of pain. And there are so many emotions that are attached to caregiving that can be difficult to deal with that do influence our choices and our decisions. Emotions can cause us to be impulsive. How many times have you done something impulsive when you were highly emotional? Here's another example. How many of us go to the grocery store and we walk down the aisle and something catches our attention, like maybe a box of Captain Crunch or a chocolate cake that was not on the grocery list. But you know what? It looks really good right now, and I know I don't need it, but I want it. So impulsively, I'm going to buy it. We are all bombarded by experiences and temptations every day through our relationships, television, radio, emails, internet advertising, things we see in stores. All of these impulse purchases are the result of outside influences that we allow to affect our minds. And then we buy things we don't need. And then, of course, when that credit card bill shows up, we're shocked and we wish we had a little more self-control. If this impulsiveness, specific to shopping, is a repeat behavior for you, you can put yourself on a cash-only diet. Pay all of your regular bills first when you get paid. Then if you want something else and you don't have the cash, you don't buy it, you save for it. You'll be surprised by the number of things that you realize that you really don't need. This idea of influence links to a lot of more unplanned actions. Influence from others and a lot of worry can build up degrees of uncertainty or self-doubt. A lack of information or education on any topic can result in a Google search for how do I do this and how do I do that? Or sometimes we ask friends or colleagues at work for advice. But realize any response you receive can be influential. How to stop being easily influenced by others means that we recognize that these responses, all this data coming at us, is influence. And in a perfect world of emotional self-control, we make a very conscious decision to evaluate the information against some type of criteria. Setting criteria to be crystal clear about what we want and limiting the decisions only to these parameters can ensure that the decisions we make are good decisions that we won't regret later. Now, as caregivers, the added emotions and stress related to caregiving tasks, time constraints, dealing with other people, paying for care, holding down a job, and trying to maintain any part of a social life all add up. And the result is what I call brain burnout. Your brain just gets tired and it shuts down. The problem is, when this happens, the easiest answer or alternative presented to you is sometimes chosen. Now, this is a danger zone because it emphasizes the second consideration, which is to put a stop to decision-making when you feel influenced, uncertain, exhausted, or highly emotional. Realize in this case that the decision you are about to make may be wrong, it may be faulty. And so sleeping on those thoughts for a day or two can give you mental clarity, can work out better for you in the long run. In a lot of these high-pressure, high-stress circumstances, we lack education. Maybe we're pressed for time. We could be confused. We could be fearful. And so these situations pose more influence on us. One example, if you're a caregiver, is navigating the healthcare system. You or your parent sees the doctor, a nurse, or somebody else, and they make a recommendation. The natural inclination is to make an on-the-spot decision. But here's the thing. You don't have to decide immediately. In fact, if the situation is not life-threatening, it's better to press that pause button and think about the recommendation. Ask more questions. Is the doctor recommending medication? If so, what are the side effects? Can you or mom or dad take a different course of action so that you don't need the medication? What if the recommendation is a treatment that you can't undo? Health decisions should never be taken lightly, and you really want to understand and do research about the decisions you're making. Automatically accepting the recommendations of healthcare professionals can be very problematic. How to stop being easily influenced by others, including the healthcare system, means pausing to think about all the recommendations or suggestions. And as you do this over time, you'll create a track record. While some decisions are super simple, like what am I going to eat if I have choice A, B, and C, other decisions that involve healthcare decisions, agreeing to take a medication, having surgery, those all have way more consequences that you really want to think about. So let's take a short break. I'm Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker. Visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com, to access my online no-cost caregiving program, How to Care for Aging Parents. There are over 160 episodes of the Caring Generation podcast, my caregiver library, and links to my online support group on Facebook. It's called The Caregiving Trap. You can also visit my YouTube channel, Pamela D Wilson, Caregiving Expert, to watch hundreds of videos answering questions caregivers ask. Stay with me. I'll be right back. This is Pamela D Wilson, caregiving expert. We're back with how to stop being easily influenced by others. The fourth consideration on the list is to think about situations you have been involved with people that you trust who have influenced you. These examples could be with your mother, father, spouse, best friend, girlfriend, boyfriend. Now, here's the thing. If this person is wise, they will be careful about influencing you or advising you because they should realize that you are the one that has to live with the advice that they give. They don't have to live with it, right? So in this perfect world of having any type of sense of self-control, we want to realize that the best people in our lives are the people who listen to us and only give advice if asked. But let's say, on the other hand, that this person you trust really needs your help. It's mom or dad, and they need a caregiver. And there's nobody else they trust. Your siblings have said no. Nobody else in the family wants to help. So rather than this person only being influential, your parent or your spouse, they may also be very persuasive. Your family member may have a list of reasons that you should give up part of your life to become their caregiver. In this case, press the pause button. Have an honest and realistic discussion about the effect of the decision on everybody involved. It's important to look at the effect on the caregiver's life and the life of the person who needs care. Put the money discussion on the table. Family members are uncomfortable talking about this, but if you don't, you as the caregiver may come out very badly at the end of this caregiving project. Also, write down your goals. Did you want to get married and have children, or fully commit to a career that might have you working 60 or 70 hours a week and traveling? Maybe you're already married and you don't want to give up time with your spouse or your children. Caregiving for aging parents may not fit in with your life goals, and that is okay. Nobody ever says that to caregivers. It's okay. Feeling guilty about prioritizing your life over a parent who needs care can be a major influence. The question is, how well do you know yourself? Are you going to be miserable giving up your life? If so, don't. It's okay to say no to being the caregiver and investigate other options to offer to your loved one. This is another situation where you can make a list of other criteria that are relevant. Few caregivers or families have these discussions right out of the gate when caregiving first starts, and this is why so many problems happen. What happens instead, family caregivers jump feet first into a I'm helping mom or dad situation. They don't realize they're a caregiver, and then they regret this commitment several months or a year down the road. Your siblings or other family members can also attempt to influence your decision to be that caregiver, and they can place a lot of guilt on you, especially if you're single. Because, of course, if you're single, you are the obvious choice to be the caregiver. You don't have a life, right? Well, not true, not always. So think about this peer pressure, this influence, and think back to grade school or high school. When you were younger, did peer pressure ever influence your actions because you wanted to be liked, or you wanted to be popular, or you wanted to be included? Well, caregiving is the same thing, right? Because what happens if mom or dad get mad at you and they stop talking to you because you refuse to be the caregiver? Does that scare the heck out of you? My response is, don't let fear or the negative behaviors of other people impact your decision. It's your life that you're giving up. They're not giving up anything. Everyone but you in a caregiving situation has more to gain. You have more to lose. And some caregivers willingly give up jobs, give up marriages, give up everything. They want to do it. That's okay for them, right? But this may not be okay for you. And so while we shouldn't think of these caregiving situations as win or lose, it's important to be honest about the effect on everyone involved, because there's very little balance in caregiving situations. And this is because there's this factor of more health problems, possibly memory loss, Alzheimer's or dementia, physical disability. It's true, with age, there are more health problems and the body becomes weaker until we die. Do you see yourself ever having to lift mom or dad when they can't stand from a chair or get out of bed? What about bathing them or changing adult diapers? All of these things can happen. So when making a commitment to become that caregiver, give yourself time, maybe even a trial period of a couple of weeks or a month before you make any type of permanent commitment. Ask yourself, if I decide one way or another, how does this affect my life and their life, and how? It's time, money, relationships, health, work, raising children, not having children, going to school, your social relationships, planning for your retirement, making sure that you stay healthy. It's also true that some people, some children, spouses, are not meant to be caregivers. If your decision is no, then help the person who needs care to create a plan so that they have access to care and help. You can remain in their life, but not as the primary caregiver. Let's take a look at the influence of friends due to changing life situations. Other decisions like having children, focusing on a career, or moving in town, out of state, cross country, across the world. It can have an impact on relationships. Your friends may start a family and ask why you're not interested in having children. Well, this difference in lifestyle may mean that you don't see each other as often because you don't have children as this common thread. Or maybe you work full-time and your friend doesn't work, or maybe your friends are starting to retire. You'd love to spend time with them, but you enjoy working, and your vacation time is limited, and not to mention you need to work. Your friends keep telling you to retire, but it's just not financially feasible for you. You had a different life. Here's another situation. Your best friend is getting a divorce and she wants you to be empathetic. Then she starts telling you that your husband is a lot like hers and that you should get a divorce so that both of you can live together. Again, think back to motivation and change in life circumstances. Your friend may now feel excluded from this circle of previously married friends. She may be dreading or looking forward to starting her life all over again. And the thought of, leaving you as a friend or moving or doing something else may be super scary. If you're happily married, there's no reason for you to give up your marriage to make your life easier for her or him, even though you love them as a friend. Know that the intentions of any person who attempts to disrupt your life significantly should be questioned. Just because a friend makes a significant life change that they have been dreaming of doesn't mean that you have to make a similar decision. Remember what your parents probably said when you were young. Just because Sally gets her hair cut, pierces a body part, or gets a tattoo, that does not mean that you have to do the same thing. You may have friends that you watch, they spend all their money, they buy a new car every 2 years. You don't. Instead, you choose to save your money, and you bought a house. They live in an apartment. So in these situations, you have a choice, we all have a choice to avoid influence of other people because we have goals that we want to meet. And it's okay to recognize that the goals of other people are different. So by having a very strong sense of self and what you want out of life and your goals, you can stop being influenced by the actions and emotions of other people. And you can say, hey, that's great that that's for you. I am so happy for you. But you know what? It's not for me. I have a different plan. I got a different goal. Influence is highly emotional. Other people trying to influence the elderly or your loved ones can really prey on them with a lack of knowledge, fear. Your parents are vulnerable. Maybe they create crazy conspiracy theories. They compare you to other people or situations, try to drag you down into commiserating with them, constantly complain or blame other people. Do not let yourself be hooked by influencers. Set aside your emotions. Bring out the logic. Bring out the reason. Making your own choices in your decision benefits from education and time and experience. Now, a lot of this also depends on the environment where you grew up, your neighborhood, the financial status of your family, where you went to school, maybe your religion, and the social groups that you participated in. Childhood experiences and relationships with parents contribute to the level of independence or dependence on family. So the more dependent you were or are on your parents or anybody to help you with aspects of your life, the more it's likely that you are vulnerable or susceptible to outside influence. If you rely on others to help you make decisions, then learning how to stop being easily influenced is probably going to be more challenging for you. But that doesn't mean that you can't get to a place of independence and confidence. If you look to your parents or anyone for approval to do things in your life, recognize this and stop giving up control so that you're not so swayed by influence and what other people expect of you and what they want. If this is you, you also may not be good at setting boundaries or drawing that line in the sand saying, I'll go this far with you, but I'm not going to take one more step. That is not for me. So if you're in this situation, the first action you can take is to recognize that you are influenced and stop living your life on what I call autopilot. We've all done this at one time or another because we have been so stressed and our life was crazy and we're like, I just can't deal with all these things right now. But what happens is then we stop paying attention and things start happening to us. And then we feel like we're out of control, or maybe we're a victim. And then we start thinking that, well, outside circumstances control everything, and I can't make a change, and I can't make choices because, interest rates are too high, or, the sky's falling, or whatever excuse we all choose to make, right? We all have our own excuses that we make. Or maybe you've become too comfortable, and you have this low sense of like, well, why should I make a change? Things are not that bad, right? But yet you still feel like you can't make your own decisions without somebody else's approval. So to get there, you've got to start looking at the variables, the options, stop living life on autopilot. Now, if you've been stuck here for a while, the challenge is you may not know what to do, where to turn, because of a sense of doubt or low self-esteem. So if you feel like you can't make changes on your own, you may need a counselor or a coach to move you along. But if you do this, remember, be extremely careful not to become dependent on them, not to become influenced by them, or you're just going to be moving the influence problem from one person to another. Change is hard. Gaining independence can be challenging if you've been dependent on other people your entire life, or if you are easily influenced. Start putting yourself first. It's okay to do that. You deserve it. Create a clear picture of how you want your life to look and make a plan so that it happens. You can master how to stop being easily influenced by others when you realize that it's happening, and take steps and pause and think and plan. I'm Pamela D Wilson. This podcast and over 160 now episodes of The Caring Generation offer information, education, resources, tools, options, confidence for you to end that ongoing emotional drain that can include feeling hopeless and influenced. I'm here to give you hope that you can create a better life, one day, one step at a time. Thank you all for continuing to post questions for this podcast and the videos I share on my YouTube channel. If you're looking for answers to caregiving and aging questions, visit my website, PamelaDWilson.com. A lot of information there. This is Pamela D. Wilson on The Caring Generation. I look forward to being with you again soon. God bless you all. I'm sending love to everyone out there, light to everyone. Sleep well tonight. Have a fabulous day tomorrow, and enjoy each day until we are here together again.
Tune in each week for The Caring Generation with host Pamela D. Wilson. Come join the conversation and see how Pamela can provide solutions and peace of mind for everyone. Here on Pamela D. Wilson's The Caring Generation.